June 2016, so summer before the presidential election, that's when we first learned that the Democratic National Committee, Democratic Party, had been hacked. This was the first story that ran about it in the Washington Post, which also helpfully made clear, based on a forensic analysis that was done by a computer security firm, that it appeared that that hack of the Democratic Party was carried out by Russian government hackers. Well before the disaster of Georgia election security in the 2016 election. In his first full year as Secretary of State in 2010, he sent armed agents door to door in black neighborhoods in Brooks County, Georgia. This was after a big get-out-the-vote effort there among black residents. That big get-out-the-vote effort led to the first ever majority African-American school board in their town. Local residents said they'd been motivated that year by teacher layoffs in their school district, teacher layoffs that were really unpopular. And according to one local leader of the voter registration effort, quote, "We'd been bit by the Obama bug." This is 2010. We'd been bit by the Obama bug, and we knew it was time for a change in Brooks County as well. They brought criminal charges against 12 local black residents who'd helped in the get-out-the-vote effort. They brought charges against those 12 residents for things like bringing envelopes containing completed absentee ballots to a mailbox. They criminally charged this group of local residents with more than 100 election law violations, including dozens of felonies. They put them on trial to face more than 1,000 combined years in prison. And you know what? Not a single one of those charges held up. On every single one of those charges, the local resident was either acquitted or the charge had to be dropped by the prosecutors. Not only were there no convictions, there weren't even any plea deals. Acquitted or dropped on every single one. And the Attorney General of the state subsequently had to issue a statement clarifying that actually none of the actions those African-American local residents in Brooks County had been charged with, none of the things they were charged with were actually illegal. Mailing in absentee ballots is not a crime. Registering your neighbors to vote is not a crime. But tell that to the people who Brian Kemp sent his armed agents door to door after in 2010. That's Brian Kemp, Georgia Secretary of State. June 2016, so summer before the presidential election, that's when we first learned that the Democratic National Committee, Democratic Party, had been hacked. This was the first story that ran about it in the Washington Post, which also helpfully made clear, based on a forensic analysis that was done by a computer security firm, that it appeared that that hack of the Democratic Party was carried out by Russian government hackers.
Georgia, E-O-R-G-E, Boston, B-O-S-T-O-N, Ryans, R-H-Y-N-E-S,
And how do you want to be CG? Just like concerned citizen, or how, what do you want your title to be?
A retired military veteran and owner of the Ghetto Free Press.
All right, I'll be able to use Ghetto Free Press. All of that won't fit.
Whatever you say is fine. Whatever you say is fine. Do it your way.
All right, yes, sir. Okay, so what did you want to say?
Well, mainly I want to say that, personally, I'm sick and tired of seeing what I'm seeing here with Mayor Ann Whipperloo. And the news media seems to be in cahoots with someone, maybe the governor of the state of Georgia, Nathan Deal, maybe other people who have a hand behind the hand of a man with a master plan. This master plan seemed to be a plan to circumvent the black votes and the black voters in the state of Georgia and perhaps around the nation. Now, point. This incident with Mayor Whipperloo, I just received a call, that's why I'm here. It seemed as if though this thing is unending, and it gotta end somewhere. This situation with her is all seemed to me to have stemmed from when she asked for a forensic audit. Now the people in Gordon here would believe probably that this is an isolated case with the mayor. It's obvious that she's black. You also have a case in Meigs, Georgia with Linda Harris, the black mayor. She's black. You also have a black mayor in GIBSON. His name, in Lumpkin, his name is Charles GIBSON. So now, not to mention Davisboro and a lot of others, but the bottom line is that there is an asserted effort to circumvent the black voters. Look, in Quitman, do you not know that there was a 19-day court hearing with the Quitman 10+2 with Lula Smart? The G.B.R. charged her with 30 to 40 counts of voter fraud. For 4 years, they finally went to court, just one of them. And she was cleared. All charges was dropped against her. We watched the G.B.R., we watched investigators from the Secretary of State's office, Brian P. Kemp, along with Glenn Archer, who I have an interest in that he ignored problems in the voting process in Brooks County. The Secretary of State ignored that. We had people that filed complaints in Brooks County, and a state person, candidate running for state representative, made complaints, and they all was ignored. I personally gave him DVDs about the problems in Brooks County. The citizens in Brooks County are still waiting back after a couple of years to get a reply back from the Secretary of State on these charges. Now, short form, why did I say all that? Because if the Secretary of State will not respond to the people in Brooks County, and if, with the video that I've sent to Eric Holder of the Department of Justice, Nathan Deal, and others about this case, about what is happening in Lumpkin, Georgia, in Meigs, Georgia, in Dawson, Georgia, Davisboro, Georgia, and many other Georgia cities to save time. And for this to go on and on and on, it just don't make sense. You have seen people disrupt council meetings here. We have seen the chief of police fail in his responsibility to assist the mayor in maintaining order and discipline according to Georgia law in these public meetings, and there are orchestrated efforts to dethrone this elected official. We even see judges now. Judges are circumventing the voters in the state of Georgia. How can a superior court judge have more power than the people? I thought they say we were a nation of laws with freedoms and rights to vote, a freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and it's obvious about freedom of the press because I said it once and I'm going to say it again. When Bill Bassett talked about this audit that the TV station, Mr. Lou, don't want to talk about. They'll talk about the mayor taking keys, but they won't talk about that gas was missing, and this is why she took the keys. They won't talk about that. But all this has been documented. And so now it seems as if though some people want to make her think that she's unintelligent, they want to think that she's unprofessional, they try to make her look silly. Now they call her out, she threatened someone. I'm being quiet about that, but I was only 10 feet away from that. The newspaper here, you'll see my video on that. It just don't make sense to anybody of average intelligence to see how this mayor is depicted in the Wilkinson County Post. Not even Lester Maddow, not Bull Connors, not Albert Pike, not any of the people that was a part of something that was very disgraceful in the eyes of our nation was never published with ugly pictures as we see in the Post and the arrangement of a female. Don't you know, America, that this woman have children, grandchildren, and maybe great-grandchildren? How would you feel, America, if your mother or your auntie was depicted every week in the, like this mayor is being depicted in the Wilkinson County Post? Now, if you all are asking me why am I so passionate about this, because I served this country during the Vietnam era, and I'm not going to be quiet. You can come after me, you can do what you want, but the American people and all of our military people in uniform who are in foreign countries with their life on the line had better wake up, or they better get out those uniforms, because this country is going down like ancient Rome while we sit here and tell the world that we're about freedom, justice, and equality. We are, until it comes down to the black man and woman and his children. And this is nothing new, and it's not just a figment of my imagination, because I have white right people in Atlanta. They hit me up on YouTube. They traveled down to Quitman, to the Quitman 10+2 case after 4 years. Those people came down. The G.B.R. lied under oath. They lied. And then they form that they got is just a disgrace. And the thing about it, everything that happened with the Quitman 10+2 Lula Smart, all that stuff that took place in the courtroom was top secret, because nobody knows nothing about it, because no news media was there. It seemed as if though they got their orders from somebody not to even recover that news-worthy voting case after 4 years. And I walked the streets even before it went to court. I walked the streets in Brooks County, and I interviewed people who said this: the G.B.R. intimidated people. There were people who said they would never, ever vote again. There's an 88-year-old woman in Marvin, Georgia, says she will never vote again in the United States of America. And so now I'm saying to the President of the United States, I'm saying to Eric Holder of the Justice Department, I'm saying to Al Sharpton, I'm saying to Jesse L. Jackson, I'm saying to Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, I'm saying to W.D. Muhammad side of the house under al-Islam, I'm saying to the Jews of Judaism, it is time now for us to stand up and let us stop doing what we are doing to these black women. And I found something out today that I didn't know about, and I'm going to add this in the mix before 6 and after 6. There are white female mayors that are catching hell on the backside of heaven, because they are those who don't want the women in power. And so the American people can sit down and ignore all of this that's going on and say, it's Mayor Lou, she done lost her mind. That woman haven't lost her mind. What done happened is the same thing that they did to Dr. King. Dr. King said, and I put this on my video a few minutes ago, Dr. King said this: the news media is no friend of certain Americans. He talked about when he went out to march, they didn't walk with him for the most part. It was only when those children started getting blown down with water hoses that the news media came in for the most part. And so I'm going to rest here, but I want you to know, and I thank you for this. I know you're not going to air much of it, but I want you to know I thank you for asking me this thing. If it seems like I'm passionate about this, it is. I am passionate. You see, I was during the Vietnam era. When I got that order to go do whatever my commander told me to do, I had to go do it. I didn't have a choice in the matter. And for me to see what I see happening across America after President Barack Hussein Obama became president, it is indeed a reason for all black and white right people to stand up and say something. You all better stop sitting down on your backside and just willing to pick up that M16 and go out and fight for foreigners, but you won't fight for your own black women, your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your brothers who are mayor. Do you not know that Dawson, Chris Wright was shot 5 times, left in his yard for dead for whatever reason? That man is running for mayor again. But don't nobody hardly know nothing about that, because once again, our free press need to be called into question. Any question for me, my beautiful brother?
Oh man, I'm good. I think you gave me a lot to work with and a lot to cut through. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you.
And also, thank you for your service.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. God bless you. Anybody else want to ask me some questions?
Mayor, what? Oh, I'm sorry.
This is a miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked. The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished. The Governor, the Secretary of State are trying to intimidate and suppress the African American vote, since they know if the 400,000 registered African Americans in the state of Georgia that did not vote in the last election cycle come out and exercise a right that people have died for, the right to vote. If the African American community and all people of color exercise their constitutional right to vote, it will mean the demise of this white privileged aristocracy here in Georgia. That is not American. That is not worthy of the state of Georgia. This prosecution is a travesty. The prosecutors, the Secretary of State, the Governor should be called out on what they have done to these women and called to publicly apologize for the 4 years that they have put them under this scrutiny and this character assassination. So that's how I feel about today.
Thank you very much. This is the Ghetto Free Press, just keeping it real. Once again, I want to appreciate you. You are a prime example, in my most humble opinion. While we cannot hate one another because of the skin color, it's not about skin color. It's about what is right and wrong. I think perhaps that Jesus put it best, and I put it in my own words. Want for your neighbor that which you want, and have for yourself and your own children. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
We want to thank Shavine King and Miss Simmons out of Atlanta for taking on and carrying on the civil rights movement. Thank you for everything you're doing. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press. Bye-bye. The word is not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Repeatedly, unanimous over this is the Ghetto Free Press. We are reporting what others ignore. The newspapers chose not to come, but we are here because we do believe that you have a right to know. And we are back in the courtroom. This is where it all took place. And once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press. Thank you for a job well done, Sheriff. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. This is Sheriff.
I see angels. I see angels coming down the street.
Once again, this is NAACP has been here all the way. This is a boy. This is super smart. All that she has been through. She violated no law. If they had not stood her ground, if they had plea we wouldn't have had this case. This case just may set a precedent. Here in Georgia, this is a very high thing. We just hope that some conclusion can come to the other people.
Every mother is an angel.
For this day that we've been
God
waiting
made it that way.
4 years.
If you look around you,
That justice
coming down every
was
street,
done.
every
Thank
city,
you so much. Thank you so much.
you see
You can
nothing
see
but
that
angels.
this is a very high,
In Washington, D.C.,
very high point. Look at the
South
young lady
Carolina,
here.
or wherever you may be. Heaven, let's be.
You may not understand this, but you don't have to see when people are sensible. When they hear people they say that she dropped that little box. She said she didn't. She said that Amy Gillespie, Special Agent of GBR, did not take a part on her death. And she testified in court. Mr. Boone
In the beginning, there was God.
This is a high day.
God
What is
made
most
man.
embarrassing? What is most embarrassing?
then
Not
God
one TV
made a
station,
woman.
no news media, no
And that woman happened to
newspaper, no
be
radio station
the
to
mother of our
record this
children.
historic event. This is
Aren't we
what black
lucky
African Americans
to
must
have
go
a mother?
through. Not to
And
mention
those mothers
Secretary
are
of State
angels.
ignoring
And to me,
public
we could not
meetings
make it
wherein all of this was
without a
brought up.
mother.
To
And I like
rejoice.
to say to
She
God,
praising God because she
Thank
is a Christian.
thank
She
you.
is nothing
Thank you,
what they
God,
claim her to be.
for giving
She
us
just praising God.
angels.
Listen, 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 listen. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Praise His holy name. He blessed it. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Praise His holy name. He's worthy to be praised. Thank you, Jesus.
And I think we've had more ups and downs if you really think about it. You know, 4.5 years, and the support. I'm one of 5 kids. I have 4 brothers. I never had sisters. I joined a sorority, but I never had sisters like this, to be this close. And in the middle of the night, we have to lean on each other. We cry on each other because only we understood or understand the feeling of being arrested together. You know, you wake up one morning and you're planning Christmas. You're planning your holidays, and you're all in jail together. We're looking around and never having other than probably a speeding ticket, never having any involvement with law enforcement, that it just kind of threw us into this different setting, a different mindset, that now that every time you pull up my name, I've got an arrest record. I've got, when I apply for anything, renewal of my teacher certificate, I've got to explain why I've got this hold by the GBI on me. You know, and it was, the thing about it was, there were so many levels that they could have arrested us under. We could have been under the level where it wouldn't have shown up, because there was no indictment at that time, there was no conviction, there was no trial, there was just allegations of something. Right. But they chose to put us on the highest. We're probably on, well, we can't even travel out of the country. Can't get passports, you know, 4 years in hold. You know, all these things that we can't do. And every time we apply for something, it pops up. The simplest things. And to be thrown from, you know, just everyday Joe citizen to that type of eyes on you, everybody knows you, you know, that you have an FBI file now. You know, when you call the State Department, you know, all these things pop up, these red flags. But like I said, that's fine too, because we'll get all that cleared up. We're positive all that will be cleared up too. But it was our time. It was a time in the nation, in the state, and even in Brooks County that all these things needed to be brought to the forefront. And I guess, you know, God knew when He chose us. We have all very, very different personalities, and we have different approaches to getting things done. But it put us together and it made that connection, you know. And because of that, and the individual strengths that we had, we've been able to stay together this long. And I also have a wonderful legal team. Anybody has ever heard of C.B. King, but you've got to meet him. I mean, he's just He's more than just an attorney. He's a mentor. He's somebody, you know, I remember we got arrested on the 21st. 21st. I remember on the morning of the 23rd, no, it was Christmas Eve morning. My son was on his way home from college, and I was trying to prepare a little holiday in the midst of all this. And I opened up went out and got the newspaper and opened it up, and we were on the front page. And the yellow jumpsuits all over again, and relived it again. And I had an awful moment that morning. And this is before 8 o'clock in the morning. I called him, and his wife was running around in the house trying to find him. She said, I'll have to call you back. And he called me back, and the first thing, I hate to disturb your holiday. And he says, oh, I want to take one day off. You know, I want to take Christmas off. And he says, what is it, Nancy? And I just, you know, just wrote down and just said, you know, here it goes again. And he says, well, get prepared. He says, get prepared. And he gave this big pep talk. And what did he tell me, Keisha?
Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time.
Go ahead.
He said, and you choose now, Nancy. Because I was just having this moment, and he listened and all that. And he says, wait a minute. He said, faith and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time. He said, now you choose now. And something went over me, and I closed that paper, and I said, I got faith. I got faith. And that thing forward, it's like, I wrote down.
Al Sharpton, we need you. Victor Blackwell, we need you. President Barack Obama, we need you in Brooks County. We need you. Oh yes, we need you. And Eric Holder of the Justice Department, you have been given videos, and you know what it's all about.
They sent a motion down and said that I could not be in the courtroom. You know, first it was I couldn't sit with the legal team. Then I could not be in the courtroom. And we went back and forth. And for the first, was it about 3 hours of opening session, they had to be in close quarters with the judge arguing that. And then he says, well, I'll make a decision. I'll rule on that after the jury selection. So we had to wait till the third day to decide whether I could even be in court to provide information. But CB had already told me that week before. He says, you know what? It's like this. If I go to play a football team, you're not going to wait till I get there and tell me my lead running back isn't going to play. He said, that's just not going to happen. And I said, okay. I told him, I said, okay. He said his lead running back's going to play. And I said, so that's what we're going to go with. And it played out just like he said, because he was just that headstrong. But like I said, there were so many obstacles that the general public, and what you did see, little bits and pieces of the paper, didn't truly report. It was people like Deacon Rice and Commissioner Maxwell and Miss Rice and Cody and George Rhymes, those that came on a daily basis. They could see the ups and downs and how we were having good days and bad days and how we were being treated. But the thing about it was, we stood right there and we smiled the whole time. Through it all, we smiled the whole time. The judge limited. He told me that during the 5 weeks of trial, I could have no contact with them. Can you imagine 4 years you threw us together, that we were on a weekly basis having contact, and you tell me for 5 weeks I could not have any contact with them? And it so happened, we had a board meeting during that week. I came downstairs from the courtroom to get a drink, and Ms. Troutman, who's also one of the Quitman 10, she stopped me to ask me a question that was on the agenda for the board meeting. I answered her question. By the time I got back upstairs, the judge had me stand up. Somebody had reported that I had been seen talking to Ms. Troutman. And I had to explain, it's about tonight's board meeting. You know, we have other responsibilities, but I mean, it was just that sensitive that when we left out the courtroom, they had to sit over in the gazebo. I had to leave out and not be seen with them. We would have to sneak at night in separate cars and get cars with tinted windows just because we were so used to eating out together. And we'd go out of town so we could have a meal together. Can you imagine 5 weeks of isolating me from these women that you threw me with? But it's all those little mental games they played, but we found ways around it. You know, we continue that support. And that's what it is. It's typical divide and then conquer. Get them all against each other. When you can't talk to each other, you're scared to talk, and you can conquer them.
Al Sharpton, we need you. Victor Blackwell, we need you. President Barack Obama, we need you in Brooks County. We need you. Oh yes, we need you. And Eric Holder, the Justice Department, you have been given videos, and you know. Al Sharpton, we need you. Victor Blackwell, we need you. President Barack Obama, we need you in Brooks County. We need you. Oh yes, we need you. And Eric Holder, the Justice Department, you have been given videos, and you know what it's all about.
Other places. Mayor Mary Ann Wiggles, just stand up and let everybody see you. She's from Gordon, Georgia. She's been going through similar things that you've heard articulated from the Quitman 10+2. And a couple of things I want to do before we go to lunch. You'll hear some more stories on this. Attorney C.D. King, I hope, will be here to speak on the luncheon. I know he's speaking tonight at the NAACP. Commissioner Maxwell, I want you to say something before we go to George. George is going to give us an overview of the trial. But let me just say this to you. Cheryl, what I would like for you to think about, since you have so many contacts and you just have so much going on, you got all these connections, I want you to think about how we can get Ebony Magazine, Oprah Winfrey, or Tyler Perry to take a look at the Quitman 10 movement. This story ought to be told on a broad scale. This is a movie. This is a documentary.
That's right.
This is a movie here, Herbert. The Quitman 10+2 case is the most serious case of voter suppression, voter intimidation, voter harassment that I've seen since 1982.
Orchestrated in the state.
That's right, orchestrated by the state of Georgia, from the top down.
I believe that.
Not from the, it came from the governor. The Secretary of State, Brian Kemp. Nathan Deal suspended them. Brian Kemp had his state election board officers down here on the ground before they were charged with anything. They were part of the arrest team. When those knocks came on their door, 4 o'clock in the morning, Brian Kemp's officers wearing guns registration forms that they're holding up, Cheryl. This is a movie, y'all.
Yes, it is.
Round it up, put in jail and hell for 12 hours? About 12 hours?
That's 14.
14 hours? Now you mentioned the 5-week trial, but there were 2 other trials before the 5-week trial. And they were hung juries and mistrials. So we had 3 trials. 3 trials. The last one 5 weeks. The first 2, couldn't get a verdict, so the judge declared mistrials. Think about that. This is a movie, y'all. We mentioned media. Now, we've been interviewed by the AJC. The AJC was here on October 4th. Area Hart. She rode with us around the community in the vans. She was out in Morville with us and came back to Quitman and went up to the McDonald's for the meeting with Attorney C.B. King. She's a phenomenal writer, Area Hart. She's a white woman who has a conscience. She did a piece on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on January the 20th of this year, the day we celebrated his birthday, national legal holiday. And she went through all that he went through, his whole life about Dr. King bringing us the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and what he was going through, how they were harassing him, how they were trying to burn his house down, burn his church, and what they were doing to destroy his family, Miss Coretta and the children, and all that stuff, and how the FBI was trying to destroy him while he was doing that. She wrote all of that. They ran it on the front page.
When 21 years in the United States Armed Forces, I got to say something. I cannot sit back and dip and play the ostrich head game. And the ostrich head duck game is when you bury your head in the sand and pretend that you're in heaven with all your backside out. And so, I'm calling on 60 Minutes. I'm calling on Dateline, 48 Hours, Eric Holder, the Justice Department. After all, Eric Holder already know about this Quitman 10 case. The Georgia Attorney General, there was a time when we could call the Attorney General. We could call the Department of Justice. We could call our Congressional Black Caucus. We could call the civil rights organizations, and they would be here. But there's something strange that's happening in our world today. It seems as if though nobody cares about anybody anymore. Yet when the time comes for them to call our sons and our daughters to serve in the armed forces in foreign nations of the world to defend the rights of others, we gladly rush off to fight these wars. But when wars such as this take place here in Brooks County, the news media don't think enough of our active duty military personnel, disabled veterans, retired military veterans, and ordinary veterans and American people. We don't care enough to at least show good faith. Even if the Quitman Free Press was not going to report it, just for facelift, they ought to be in the courtroom. If ABC didn't want to report it because they have already received their instructions, they at least ought to be here as a good face. NBC, if they have received their instructions not to cover this by some higher-ups, maybe those in the clique and among the slicks, just out of good journalism, they ought to send somebody by to cover the Quitman 10+2 case. After all, they've been waiting over 4 years to have their day in court. So we must ask the question, have we ever heard of a speedy trial in the United States of America? Have we ever heard of a speedy trial here in Brooks County? Haven't finished yet. What about Oprah Winfrey? What about, what that guy named, Tyler Perry? If he can put all these other movies on to stimulate our circulation and put us in a thrill and kill, why can't he send some of his reporters down? Or to at least interview somebody? Well, this is nothing new, so I'm not amazed by this. If you go back to the Kendrick Johnson case. That's still pending in Valdosta in Lowndes County. Go back to my criminal trespass that still haven't been resolved. Go to the mayor, Linda Harris in Meigs, Georgia, the black elected mayor, arrested twice under 2 criminal trespass warnings. The council walked out on her. Then from there, I was called to Dawson, Georgia. Newly elected black mayor shot 6 times and left in his front yard for dead. His neighbor came over. Today he's still in office, and I understand he's running again. Then I was called to Gordon, Georgia. Mayor ran the Whippoorwill. But you don't hear nothing about that on MSNBC and Al Sharpton. 60 Minutes won't talk about that. ABC won't talk about that. They'll tell you about a cat trapped in a tree or a dog that got ran over by an 18-wheeler. But when it comes down to these situations, Lumpkin, Georgia, where Mayor Charles Gibson was called a nigger by a fellow council member, a white female. Nobody have come in. Secretary of State, Governor Nathan Deal, Georgia Attorney General Sam Olens, nobody is saying nothing about it. So all of us can't go to sleep at the wheel. All of us cannot go to sleep at the wheel. And so I have counted at least 11 cities where newly elected black mayors are catching pure heaven on the backside of hell. And yet, nobody says anything. It is getting strange.
First of all, I'd like to say that we commend the Quitman 10+2 for the way they handle themselves during this time. The thing about it that was so beautiful is that it was all of us.
Yeah.
And they had a wonderful team. Sister Lou Smart, Nancy Denner, Mrs. Simmons from Atlanta, and Attorney King. They made those people look like amateurs.
Yes.
Amen.
Woo! Let me give you a little background. But I'm so thankful to the Quitman 10+2 that they did not take a plea bargain.
Amen.
Amen. If they had been convicted of one crime, that would have been a felony on their records, and they would have been messed up for life. My prayer to God was total exoneration, innocent on all counts, and God brought us through.
Sure did.
I want to give you a little background. On December 2010, 10 citizens of Quitman, Georgia were arrested and accused of voter fraud. These citizens was arrested, unceremoniously put in orange jumpsuits, their names splattered all over the newspaper, the television, the radio, and this was only an indictment. An indictment is only an accusation. But yet these citizens were presumed guilty before there was even a trial. Amen. And we must understand that every citizen is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. When they was arrested, we thank God for the community that came together. And the first meeting was held at Bethlehem Church. We thank God for Bethel for opening their doors. I was the pastor there. We also like to thank our good friend Floyd Rose. Stand up, Pastor. God always have people in place when you need them the most. Amen. He is a stalwart in the civil rights movement. He knew what to do. He even named the Quitman 10. Amen. He showed us how to get this movement organized. And we thank God for him. He's from the SCLC. Amen. We thank God for them and Tyrone Brooks coming down and helping us. Also, during this movement, the NAACP was started here. And that was to, there might be future cases that might come up, and we'll have an organization in place to make sure we can handle this situation. Now, the United States Constitution guarantees each person equal protection under the law. The United States Constitution guarantees that every person of our nation is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The rights of these citizens were violated. Amen.
Yes, sir.
And what angers me so is the fact that Sister Latasha Head died with these accusations hanging over her head.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
yet there are still, with her, 11 people that still have to be tried. This case has been going on for 4 years.
Sir.
Now, you have to understand one thing, and that is, every person is entitled to a speedy trial. Their rights was violated. Now, why did it take over 4 years to bring these people to justice? It's because they didn't have a case.
Right, right, right.
Amen.
That's right.
They didn't have a case. They were hoping that they would take the plea. But when they didn't do that, they had to prove their case. And if you were in the courtroom,
That's right.
you would have seen one of the biggest fiascos you ever wanted to see in your life.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
The witnesses lied on the stand.
Yes, yes, yes.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation lied on the stand.
That's right.
Yes.
Falsified documents.
That's right.
Yes.
The Secretary of State lied on the stand.
Yes, yes, yes.
Boone from the post office, who started this whole mess, lied on the stand,
Yes.
all to try to make these citizens look guilty.
My Lord, my Lord.
But thank God that we have a God who sits high.
Come on now.
and he
Yes,
looks
sir.
down.
That's right.
Yes, Lord. Yes,
Lord.
Lord.
That's right.
The sad thing about this case is Governor Deal,
Uh-huh.
who is the leader of the state of Georgia,
Uh-huh.
left the state capital
Uh-huh.
to come down here and suspend people who were elected to the school board.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
This election was certified
Yes, sir.
and without due process of law.
That's right.
Every person is entitled to due process of law,
Yes.
That's right.
but he's put it upon himself to suspend Dr. Nancy Danner, who has a doctor's degree,
Yes, sir.
Sister Diane Thomas, who has a master's degree,
Earn.
and Sister Linda Troutman.
Yes, Lord.
They treated us like, you excuse me for saying us, because I was just as angry as they were.
That's right. That's right.
Every citizen in Brooks County should have been angry
Upset.
Come on now.
Yes, sir.
for the way
Yes,
they
sir.
treated our citizens.
Yes,
That's right.
sir.
But yet many people didn't get involved because, number one, you thought they was guilty because the white man said they was.
There it is. Woo, woo. There it is. Come on now. That's all right.
That's it. And you're scared.
Come on now. That's it. That's That's it.
My question is, how are you going to get the horse back into the barn?
That's right.
These people's names have been tarnished, their reputation besmirched. They have been talked about, accused of different things, and now they are proven innocent. How are you going to get the horse back in the... How will you restore these people good name and reputation? How are we going to do that? We need to look at that and see what we can do to help them restore their good name. One thing that most people didn't understand, and I'm getting ready to close, were that when the GBI, the Secretary of State, canvassed the community, they tried to strike fear in the heart of the black community.
Woo! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Yes, sir!
They didn't want you to vote.
That's right.
They especially didn't want you to vote absentee because those absentee ballots can be accounted for.
Yes, sir. Paper
That's
trail.
right. Paper
This
trail.
trial proved that there was corruption downtown.
That's right.
If it wasn't for the absentee ballots, it never would have been uncovered.
That's right.
Many people don't understand that when those incumbents were declared the winner that night and woke up and had lost the election that next day, it's because they didn't intend to count the absentee ballots.
That's right. That's right.
But God prevailed. Amen.
Amen.
The prosecution changed the wording on the ballots to prosecute Lula Smart. The language was not there in 2010. They changed it
My Lord, my Lord.
That's right.
on the ballot to make it look like she was guilty. The prosecution suppressed evidence.
Yes, sir.
They hid evidence.
Sure they did. I'm a witness.
Amen. Show them. Speak it. Tell the truth.
I believe that we ought to demand, as concerned citizens,
Yes.
that they drop the charges on every remaining member.
Woo! There it is. Woo! There it is.
What's so amazing is that Sister Dana and all of the workers on the poll had been trained.
Yeah.
They knew what to do. But yet they tried to make it look like they were incompetent. But God prevailed.
Amen.
Few of the fallacies of this trial, and then I'm going to sit down.
Amen.
I don't know about you, but I got angry when I looked. I didn't even vote absentee ballot that time. And here come the GBI and the Secretary of State knocking on my door.
Wow.
Wow.
But one thing that happened that most people understand is that you all shut them down.
Amen.
Amen.
You all shut them down. When you told them that we're not going to answer your question, we voted who we wanted to vote for, I did what I wanted to do, get out of my yard.
Woo! There it is.
We don't have to be afraid no longer.
All right. Amen.
It's so much I could go on, but I'm going to
Tell the story.
Jesus.
I'm going to yield. But there were so many fallacies. And I hope and pray that we all learn a lesson from this.
Yes. Yeah.
that we're not going to let anybody come in our community
No.
and disrespect our people. These were the leading citizens of our community that they went after.
Amen.
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 If the head falls, the body, you kill the head, the body gonna die. But see, they didn't know Nancy Denham. And Diane, Miss Sharpman.
That's right.
And they didn't know.
They didn't know.
But I knew from the beginning, that they were innocent from the start. I don't know about you, but I grew up in the 50s. I was born in 1952. Amen.
Amen.
And I know the tactics of other men. They'll do anything to win.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But I want to say to you and to all of the people who prayed and supported the Quitman 10. I know some of you wanted to be there, but you had to work. I know some of you could have been there, but you chose not to. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for just putting them up before God.
Amen.
And allowing God to use them. Whether you know it or not, God used them.
Yes. Yes, he did. Yes.
There was a gentleman that called me from San Francisco, and he said, "What in the world are y'all doing out there?" He got on our organization, the NAACP, because they didn't come here. I'm angry because the president of the NAACP didn't show his face.
Tell it.
And I'm angry.
Tell it.
Now he's writing all kind of articles. Want the Quitman 10+2 to come up there and talk. Where was he when they needed him the most? And that's a little bit of the history, and I'm going to close with this. The Get Out the Vote campaign of the Quitman 10 plus those who helped were the most brilliant campaign I have seen in my life. People voted who had never voted before in their life.
Amen.
People who couldn't make it to the polls. And they got beat at their own game.
Come on now. That's right.
Amen.
Amen.
It was a brilliant campaign. It was well planned, well organized. And many other communities are looking at what the Quitman 10+2 did. And they are doing the same thing in their communities.
Of course.
So we say Quitman 10+2, don't stop doing what you're doing.
Right now.
We're fast getting a new council. I told one of the white gentlemen that he was wondering how did the mayor get beat. And I told him that everybody who touched the Quitman 10, we were going after.
Look out! Look out! There it is!
Amen. I don't know about y'all, but you ain't gonna mess with no.
reflection that you just shared with me. I apologize, number one, for running behind schedule. Had some transportation issues to arise. But coming here was always on my mind. I can't express to you enough how appreciative I am to have had the opportunity to be involved in a movement, one that quite honestly rarely occurs these days. You know, I said to, I believe it was Nancy Dennard, that the lesson that was taught here in Quitman is a lesson that people in Ferguson, Missouri could have learned from.
Yes, sir.
This was a monumental event. I don't think that people may have realized just how big an accomplishment this was. I think that you sometimes confuse the size of the community with the size and the enormity of the accomplishment. So, you know, I really want to stress to you that this, in fact, was a victory. It was a victory for people more than just Lula Smart.
Amen. Amen.
It was a victory for us all. Now, I would be derelict in failing to give recognition where recognition is due. These 12 individuals that have been called the Quitman 10+2 are a very special group of people and very special to me. I've been practicing law for the better part of 33 years now, and I can't tell you of a time when I've had greater pride in representing a client, let alone 12.
Amen. Amen.
I'm talking about people who, when I would come here and we would meet over at a storefront location near town, and people would have organized themselves and would have, organized themselves in a sense that it didn't seem as though it took a lot of effort on their part to realize their purpose. And the resolve that they had during the entire time that we were talking about, well, what was going on, the fact that the arrest had taken place, and then also the fact that people had been indicted, and it was clear that we were on a path to trial. I don't think that there was ever a moment in which anybody questioned where we were headed. And there was no discussion about entering into any compromise, any plea agreement, or anything of that sort. I think that that was the furthest thing from anyone's mind. And I would not be 100% truthful with you if I didn't say that as a lawyer, you're always concerned about the recommendations that you make to people. That, you know, whatever you make as a recommendation, people are going to rely upon it. And it may be a life-changing moment for them.
Yes.
And so I felt that weight from time to time, but I can honestly say that they made it a lot easier to handle than what it could have been. Now, I'm only going to make some brief remarks, and I understand people have already gotten up before me and may have said many of the things that I would want to say to you. But this is only one step in the process. This is a moment when we can see what we can do.
Yes.
That it's not about theory, that it's not about some lofty ideal or something that we could, quote unquote, wish for. We can make it happen.
Yes.
Now, we still have a number of people who've not yet gone to trial. And quite frankly, I don't know what the prosecution is thinking about. But I can promise you this, that the same kind of vigor, the same kind of effort, the same kind of commitment that went into this first trial will see us through to the last.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'd like to make one other comment, and that is that I think that we ought to be putting together a Christmas list of things we want to see happen in this community. I think that those who are not with us, those who would oppose us, those who have an interest in delivering services and benefits to one part of the community and not to the entire community, those individuals are not going to change their ways. They may have backed down for a minute, but in 500 years, it has not changed, and I have no reason to believe it's going to change now. And while we have them on their heels, it would be foolish on our part to simply take our foot off the gas. I think that if we're going to take advantage of this energy that we've got going, this momentum, then we need to be putting it together in some constructive way. We need to come up with an agenda. We need to look throughout our community and figure out what are our needs. What would we like to see happen? Because there is nobody more in need than us.
Amen.
Some of the things that, cross my mind is, the kind of education that our kids are getting.
Yes.
They know about everybody else except themselves.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And when a person does not know who he is, does not embrace who he is and does not hope and dream for what he can be, that individual's lost. And more importantly, he's lost from us. This is our future. So, you know, I think that there's some things that maybe could be done to the way in which our children are taught, the kind of curriculum that they are fed, and programs to address a lot of issues that we have with self-esteem, being goal-oriented, having a vision about what it is that life can offer. That is one thing that maybe we can do. I mean, you've got, according to the census report, only 35% of the population in this county. White folks constitute some 62% or thereabouts. I imagine if you count Hispanics and so forth. But you've got way more muscle than any 35%. And what we have to do is to bring that muscle into action and get it focused on certain goals and objectives. We need a drug court in every community. This business of our kids having to go to school and it be a pipeline to the jailhouse. That's a drain on our resources. That's burdening our community with more problems. And we can go about setting up programs that are designed to eliminate problems in our community. For any problem that we have, we can come up with a program to set it right. And of course, in addition to the impact that you can have on your school board, I mean, I looked at it at a website as I came down the road at the accomplishments of this school board since 2010. It's a very, very long list of accomplishments. You know? And we can improve upon that. And in addition to that, one of the ways in which we can improve upon making these programs work is to get certain people out of the way.
Right.
Now, you've got a district attorney in this circuit.
Wow.
He needs to go. You've got other individuals in this community who consider themselves privileged. And they need to be shown that they are no better than anybody else.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
We had people take the witness stand, take an oath to tell the truth, and they lied their butts off. And we should make it a point to let them know that we won't tolerate this kind of abuse, and that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it.
All right. All right.
Again, I just want to say to each and every one of you that Brooks County has gained the attention of the entire state of Georgia, and I would say from some of the coverage we've received, it's really the country.
Amen. Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is.
People are interested in finding out what is it that people do or did down here to make what was most unlikely to occur.
Yes, sir.
And I think that since we've got the attention of many who live outside this community, we should do everything within our power to push this ball further down the field. We have a lot of things, a lot of improvements that need to be made in this community, and if people continue to watch this community, we can't simply show them what we did in the past. We have to show them what we're going to do. Okay?
Yes, yes, sir.
We're going to show them exactly what it is to have control of our own destiny. Thank you so much. I say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to the Quitman 10+2. It is an indescribable moment for me, and I may live in Albany, but I am here in Quitman.
Let's do our parts, make history, become a part of history. We don't blame you if you had misinformation at the beginning of the Quitman 10+2 saga. You had misinformation. And you said, well, they must have done something. Listen, never ever in my a million years that I think they were guilty of anything. Never. Because I know we had taught them. We taught them to be honest. You walking down the hall, you find a dollar bill. They will go into that office and turn that dollar in. So look, Billy, I found this. It's not mine. Because we taught them that. They weren't going to do what was wrong. They were going to vote and support us. So I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm with you. I am with you. I am with you. Every step of the way. Where you from? Brooks County! Why? Quitman 10+2.
Mailing in absentee ballots is not a crime. Registering your neighbors to vote is not a crime. But tell that to the people who Brian Kemp sent his armed agents door to door after in 2010. That's Brian Kemp, Georgia Secretary of State.